There are several great quarterbacks across the NFL today. Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Mason Rudolph, they're all great. And there has never been a shortage of great quarterbacks throughout the history of the NFL. And today we're going to look at the 10 best to ever do it, which is why I'm Jarrett Bailey from USA Today. And these are the 10 best quarterbacks of all time. Number 10, Steve Young. I will die on the hill that Steve Young is the most talented quarterback in 49ers history, but there is another guy who we will get to later that holds the claim to greatest quarterback in 49ers history. Young was so great in so many ways, though. 4 times he led the NFL in passing touchdowns, including 3 consecutive years from 1992 to 1994. Incredibly proficient, incredibly precise, the 2-time NFL MVP holds claim to one of the most feel-good moments in NFL history, getting the metaphorical monkey off his back, winning a Super Bowl for the 49ers, and finally escaping the shadow of Joe Montana. He defined the 1990s with the way that he played quarterback. He's a Hall of Famer and one of the best quarterbacks to ever do it. Oh, and also, that run against the Vikings is fucking rad. Number 9, Ben Roethlisberger. All right, listen. I know I'm biased when it comes to the discourse on Benjamin Todd Roethlisberger. He's my favorite player of all time. He made me fall in love with football. I get it. However, the numbers and the accolades both speak for themselves when talking about Ben Roethlisberger. He is only one of 12 quarterbacks in the history of the league to start and win multiple Super Bowls. He's the youngest quarterback in the history of the league to start and win a Super Bowl. He's the only quarterback in the history of the league with 3 500-yard passing games, the only quarterback in the history of the league to throw 6 touchdown passes in consecutive weeks. He led the NFL in passing twice. He's top 10 all-time in passing yards and passing touchdowns. Just everything that you could want from a quarterback, Ben gave you. As long as you had 7, you knew that you always had a chance. Number 8, Johnny Unitas. You'd be hard-pressed to find anybody on this list more important to the history of the NFL than Johnny Unitas. From the mid-1950s to the mid-1960s, Unitas was the best quarterback in football and helped popularize the game when baseball was still king. His masterpiece came in the 1958 NFL Championship game, leading what we now know as the 2-minute drill to lead the Baltimore Colts down the field to tie the game against the New York Giants and take it into sudden death overtime, where he led another drive capped off by an Allen Amici touchdown to give the Baltimore Colts the 1958 NFL Championship. Unitas' performance was a spark that ignited the flame that was the growth of football in America, and the 3-time MVP was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1979. Number 7, John Elway. This one's for John. There was a time where it was thought that John Elway wouldn't be able to win a Super Bowl, which is crazy because he dragged 3 different sad sack Broncos teams to Super Bowls, but they just didn't have the firepower to keep up with the NFC's best. During that span, though, he was one of the best quarterbacks in the game. He won league MVP in 1987, he was voted to 9 Pro Bowls, and he was the composer of one of the most incredible drives in the history of the NFL against the Cleveland Browns, leading Denver 98 yards down the field to send the AFC Championship game into overtime. And in the final 2 years of his career, with the help of Terrell Davis, Rod Smith, and Ed McCaffrey, Elway and the Broncos defeated the heavily favored Packers and the Falcons in consecutive years to win 2 Super Bowls and send Elway out on top. Number 6, Aaron Rodgers. Corporal Mushroom has started a new journey late in his career, joining the New York Jets, but he will always be remembered for the magnificent years in which he spent with the Green Bay Packers and won 4 league MVPs. Rodgers is unlike any quarterback we've ever seen in that he can make any throw you want him to, and he simply just doesn't turn the ball over. And no matter what your opinion is on the Super Bowl 45 MVP, there's no denying that he is one of a kind when it comes to production, protecting the football, and he's still not done yet. One of the best careers in the history of the NFL and a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer. Number 5, Joe Montana. All right, calm down. Before you start yelling at me about the 4 Super Bowls and everything, just a reminder, Terry Bradshaw also has 4 Super Bowls and he's not even on the list. Montana was fantastic in every sense of the word, but he was also surrounded by Hall of Famers and had a lot of advantages that guys who played in his era didn't have. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk about some Joe cool moments. The drive against Cincinnati, where he pointed out that John Candy was in the crowd. Absolutely eviscerating the Broncos in one of the most perfect performances by a quarterback in a Super Bowl in history. The 49ers owned the 80s, and 16 in red was a big reason why. Number 4, Dan Marino. Every 49ers fan watching this is cursing my name, but I gotta tell you, blank slate, if I had to pick one quarterback, Montana or Marino, I'm taking Marino. This man threw 48 touchdowns and 5,000 yards in 1984. Now, I don't know what the exact conversion rate would be to modern-day football, but I do know it took 20 years until Peyton Manning broke the touchdown record, and then Tom Brady broke it again in 2007, and it took nearly 30 years until another quarterback threw for 5,000 yards in a season. And he did it all largely by himself. Name another Hall of Famer from that era of Miami Dolphins teams. You can't. When Marino retired, he held nearly every major passing record until Brett Favre got greedy and decided to break them all. He's a 9-time Pro Bowler, 1984 MVP, and somehow throughout time has become underrated. Number 3, Peyton Manning. You could certainly make the argument that the Sheriff is the best regular season quarterback of all time. A 7-time All-Pro, a 5-time MVP, led the NFL in passing yards multiple times, including the NFL record for passing yards with over 5,400 and the NFL record for passing touchdowns in a season with 55. Peyton ranks in the top 5 of almost every major passing category all time, and you throw in his 2 Super Bowl titles, there's little doubt that he's one of the very best to ever do it. Number 2, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I've seen enough to put him at number 2. If Mahomes retired tomorrow, he would be a first ballot Hall of Famer. In 5 years as a starter, he's been named to the Pro Bowl in all 5 years. He's a 2-time All-Pro, a 2-time MVP, and a 2-time Super Bowl MVP. And that's all without mentioning that his arm is unlike anything we've ever seen. When he goes off platform, he is deadly. Everything about Patrick Mahomes is something that we have never seen before in the NFL. And at just 27 years of age, he's still got so much football left to be played, and as long as he's under center, the Chiefs are going to be one of the Super Bowl favorites going into the season. Number 1, Tom Brady. There's nothing you can say about Tom Brady that hasn't been said a million times. He's the GOAT, he played forever, 7 Super Bowls, avocado ice cream, the whole shebang. If there is a record in the NFL record book pertaining to passing, it's more than likely that Tom Brady owns it. This is going to be the first season in nearly 25 years that Tom Brady hasn't been on an NFL roster. And after all the record setting, all the championships, all the LFGs, best wishes in retirement, Tom. Thanks for the memories. And that is the list. If you enjoyed that, be sure to go check out the list I did on my top 10 favorite players of all time, as well as the rest of the programming on the channel. Black and Gold Breakdown, the Pump Fake, Watch the Tape. Check out everything. Like, comment, subscribe. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's Top 10.